pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's right. Okay, good. I think that's right.
Good evening. Happy New Year to everyone. Mayor Pike Branch, PCSB. Michael?
This is on for public hearing. All of my comments have been addressed.
Rich?
This is Retail Route 6,
Mayor Peck
PCSB.
Branch.
PCSB?
Yes.
Sorry, I had the wrong one open, so. So the applicant is still in front of the DEP and working with them to get their approvals. They've acknowledged all the referrals and permits that are needed. I'm still reviewing the stormwater pollution prevention plan, but they are moving forward and addressing the detailed comments that I've done.
Thanks. Right.
The only other comments came from our wetland inspector, which have been forwarded to the applicant so they can update their plans accordingly.
Pat?
As you know, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has made a number of revisions to this plan. They've addressed all the site planning issues.
But we're still taking separate though, correct?
Yes.
Any comments, Jeff?
No, good evening. Jeff Quintelmo from Insight Engineering, along with Robert Ferrier from PCSB. We're here to answer any questions.
This is a public hearing on PCSB, Mayor Pike Branch, Lot 1. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard? If there's no comments, can we get the motion to close the public hearing on Lot 1?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on PCSB Mayapack Branch, Lot 1, 150 Route 6, tax map 86.11-1-1.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
On Lot 2, Michael?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, on the PCSB, could we ask for a resolution for the seeker determination for the next meeting, because that has us bound up with the health department and the DEP right now?
To save you some time and effort, why don't you wait till we finish Lot 2?
Okay.
Because you're going to ask me the same question.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Michael?
Same comment. This is on for a public hearing, and all my comments have been addressed.
Rich?
Same comments as before. The applicant has acknowledged the referrals and permits that are required. They're in front of the DEP trying to get approvals for their site. So they are in that holding pattern for that. They've addressed all of the engineering comments, and they've been made aware of the the wetlands inspector's comments. So.
Thanks, Rich. Pat?
Also, same as the other one, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has made some significant revisions to the site plan. All the site plan issues have been addressed.
This is open public hearing on Lot 2 of PS.
This one's Route 6
PCSB.
retail.
6 retail.
Route 6
But
retail.
it's still on Route 6, yeah, retail, Lot
Right.
2,
Yep, Lot 2.
yeah. That's open public hearing. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard? If not, can we get a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, Route 6 retail, Lot 2-150 Route 6, tax map 86.11-1-1.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, Ms. Catalmo, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. We'd like to request a resolution for the next meeting, just relative to the seeker determination for both the PCSB site plan and the Route 6 retail site plan. our application before the DEP cannot be deemed complete without that determination, and we're at that stage with them, so.
Yeah. When everyone come in, you notice I was talking to the engineer. I was asking him for the simple reason that that's almost 3 pages of comments from the engineering department. Would it be proper to have a resolution? And he stated that his comments was dealing strictly almost with the DEP, and it wouldn't involve that. So I have no problem, anybody else, with granting the request of the applicant. Okay, thanks, Jeffrey. And we're gonna move number 6 up. The applicant has number 6 on the agenda, which is Hillcrest Commons. This is for the extension of final amended site plan approval. What extension, is this how many?
First.
First
first one?
extension, one-year extension.
Jeffrey, hold just a minute. Michael?
I have no objection to the extension for 1 year.
Engineering Department does not have an objection to the reapproval of the amended site plan, as long as there are no changes being made to the site. The board should be aware that the applicant does have coverage under New York State Stormwater, New York City DEP Stormwater, New York City DEP amended sewer for the sewer system determination, Putnam County amended approvals plans for the sewer collection system. However, it does not contain documentation regarding the stormwater control maintenance and facility agreement, which was part of the planning board resolution, and the easement information, items 15 and 16 of the original resolution.
Pat?
In 2015, your board granted a reapproval for this, so that now is coming towards its expiration date, thus the request for the extension of the approval. We have no objections, Mr. Chairman.
Any hold up there, Jeffrey?
Excuse me?
Something holding up that it's not moving any further?
No, I think one of the things that Rich asked about was the stormwater agreement, which has been filed, and I was copied on an email today where it was forwarded to the town, as proof that it was done more than a year ago. So we believe everything's...
That came in today, right? You just
Yes,
sent it
I
in?
believe so. So we believe everything's in order for the extension. Nothing's changed since we were here last time.
And, Mr. Chairman, there is a letter from the applicant indicating that there's a financing issue, which continues to be a problem for the applicant.
Correct.
That's from Wilder Balter, Van Lardy.
Wasn't there some concerns back before this extension was granted? Wasn't there some concerns
So
with
if
this?
you remember, we had to sort out a number of issues prior to the reapproval in 2015. All of that was clarified at the time, so we're all good. All of those conditions are continuing to be carried with the last reapproval 9 months ago, or whenever we did that. So all of that's been clarified, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions around the board?
I guess my thing would be a timing thing. What is the expectations of this being built? Is this something we're going to see in this season, or?
Yeah, from my perspective, what I know is that the financing isn't there right now. They have applied again for the different forms of financing that is necessary for this type of project. They're waiting to hear on that. The announcement would be made, I believe, in May. They're coming
Right,
up.
this is like a kind of a lottery state funding type thing, right?
There are a number of sources of funding that goes into the project. That's the complication, and they had to meet certain requirements for each funding source. So it's simply a complicated management effort to put all that together, keep it running simultaneously while they deal with all the approval conditions and so forth.
It's competitive funding. It's not really a chance lottery type funding. It's
Right.
really more competitive, like football game funding.
Oh, really? So but there's only so much of it that goes around, right, and then it gets.
What's the best project?
Right. What's the best fit? And this project, again, maybe just for the benefit of our listening audience, and we've certainly seen this once already, maybe just a quick description of where we are right now, right?
Sure.
Because this is already, a phase of this is already done, right?
Correct. Hillcrest Commons is, or was approved as a 150-unit senior housing development behind the ShopRite off of Route 52 near the Kent line. Wilder Balter is a very established builder of both market rate and affordable homes throughout the Hudson Valley region. They built the first 75 units, which are in place up on the hill behind ShopRite. There's a new roadway and all the infrastructure in place for not just that 75 units, but the second 75 units, which is the subject of our request for extension. As Mr. Cleary pointed out, we were reapproved back 9 months ago. One of our conditions allows us to come back for an extension for another year. That's what we're seeking. Wilder-Balter has submitted again for some of the competitive funding, which we just referred to, and would love to start the project, assuming that that funding gets put in place. And by the way, the first 75 units have been very successfully occupied and actually, embraced by the community.
That's what I was driving, I just think maybe everybody a little history, so. I have no issues, I think it's.
Is all the rest of those conditions been met too? Wasn't there something with the swimming pool?
There
with
was, so if you remember.
Is that been taken care of?
It was, so that was the issues with that reapproval. All of that's been sorted out, compliance with all the open space requirements and those recreational requirements, all satisfied. That's what was the basis of your approval, reapproval.
And wasn't there something on egress out of that place?
Yeah, all of that, so the access driveway, which comes in from Kent and into the town of Carmel, is already built and approved, serving Phase 1. It extends into Phase 2.
Is all that outlined so that the board can get a copy of all that?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, if
Because
you'd like.
isn't that new to most people?
Yeah,
We discussed that.
we vetted this right in the spring of last year, I believe,
Fairly
right?
extensively.
So I at least personally have a pretty good understanding of this one, because
Okay.
we did have a chance, we did have an opportunity to, this was one of the first ones we got to see, and
Yeah, the big
I'm
ones.
familiar with it.
The big concern was the open space, and
That's
that was
exactly
addressed,
right.
yeah.
Now, what's the next question?
There's no more questions.
Okay. Can we get a motion for the extension of 1 year?
1 year.
1 year?
Yes.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion. 1-year extension for Hillcrest subdivision, tax map 44.10-2-4.2.
It's not a subdivision, no, excuse me.
It's a site
Hillcrest
plan.
Commons site plan.
It's not, yeah.
Site plan approval.
Oh, sorry. All right, Hillcrest Commons,
Site plan approval.
site plan approval. Extension?
Yeah, because I moved it down. It's number 6 on the agenda,
okay.
isn't it?
Okay.
Number 6.
Hillcrest,
Oh, we jumped around there, yeah.
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 We got it.
1-year extension for Hillcrest Commons, Lot E, 2.2, Route 52, tax map 44.10-2-4.2.
That's
Yes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
In front of me.
Number 3 on the agenda, Lake Plaza Shopping Center.
Not for me.
Michael?
Variance is required for the existing 8x18 parking spaces. Variances are required for the existing signs that are larger than 40 square feet that do not have existing variances or are going to be removed. CVS, as we know, is going to be removed with this applicant. And variances are required for the Stop and Shop signage. They're well over what they would be allowed.
As the board's aware, this is the application involves the renovations and expansions of the Lake Plaza Shopping Center. The applicant has acknowledged the referrals and permits that are required and are actively working with the New York City DEP, both stormwater and sewer connection. So that is going to be where the longevity of pulling the project back would be in that ballpark. They provided a copy of a traffic study, which I have forwarded to the DOT and the Town of Carmel Highway Department for their review. Wetland mappings are still needed to be provided, but applicant has indicated to me that they will be providing them shortly. The wetlands inspector has been provided a copy of the planting and wetlands mapping for his review. There are other detailed comments that we're still working on. The applicant has done a great job in moving forward with most of them, and we'll still work with them to get the final ones completed.
Pat?
The applicant has submitted, as you saw, a very thorough and complete package of revised plans. They have made changes in a number of areas to the plans. First thing they clarified is that this, in fact, is a single-phase development. There's no phasing. It's going to happen at a single time, all the facade improvements and the construction of the new supermarket as well. The parking issue, as Mike alluded to, they've revised and clarified the parking requirements. They'd need variances for those issues, parking variances for those issues. As Mike indicated, they've clarified signage. As Rich indicated, traffic study's been submitted for the project. The initial comment memo that we had from them regarding their market analysis, the applicant is revising that to provide some additional clarification based on the code requirements. The parking area in the rear that the board raised concerns about, if that would be a public parking area, the applicant has clarified that that will be used for employee parking in the rear of the site. They've clarified the truck access to the loading areas behind the property. Our concern about pedestrian access around the rear has been clarified with a new sidewalk and curbing. They've added painted crosswalks to the parking area. We have new plans dealing with the architectural facade of the building. They've addressed some of the lighting and the excessive lighting in the rear of the building by actually eliminating light poles where they're unnecessary. A fairly significant revision to the landscaping plan has been provided by substantially supplementing that. The retaining walls in the rear of the property have been reduced, their height reduced, and the number of retaining walls reduced. They have added the utility provisions on the plan, and they have acknowledged that the area behind the loading area where there's some garbage and debris, the applicant is indicating that they'll clean that up. And there is the main driveway out to Route 6, where there was originally just simply a concrete area in between the boulevard in and out. They're providing a planting strip in between there, which is a significant aesthetic improvement to the access to the property. So that, in summary, are the fairly significant changes the applicant has made based on your initial round of comments.
Yes.
Good evening. Happy New Year. Geraldine
Happy New Year to
Tortorella
you.
of Hockerman, Tortorella, and Wechstein. I'd like to just introduce our team, and then we'd like to go right into the application and
Sure.
address some of the changes and any questions that you might have. You know Mike Youngins and John Canning, who were here last month with us. They're here again from VHB. We have a new member of our team here, Keith Michaels of Michaels and Waldron, our architects who are working on the design of the smaller shop facade improvements that we discussed last time. Deborah Farr is here again from Stop and Shop, and Robert Heidenberg and Pablo Medeiros are here from Heidenberg Properties on behalf of the ground lessor Lake Plaza Associates LLC. We have made a number of revisions, and I'd like us to take a few minutes and be able to go through those, even though Pat summarized them. We'd like to talk a little bit about them, and if you have any additional questions, we would be happy to respond to those. I'd also like to spend a little bit of time this evening with the architectural plan that we've submitted and the elevation, so you can understand what our vision is for the balance of the center. It's significantly different from our initial submission, and I'd like to take some time to be able to discuss that and what we view in terms of signage for the center, and also look at the Stop and Shop signage, and then we can talk about any other issues that the board members might have. I know Mr. Youngins will also report to you on an update on the DEP meeting that we had, which we were asked to undertake as quickly as possible.
Good evening.
I'll just give you, we'll start out with the
Mike, could you take the microphone so we get you on the big screen?
Let me just take you through a couple changes we did, just to address some of the concerns of the board and the professionals. Some of the biggest changes happened in the front of the lot. We had previously just a couple of landscape islands here, just to provide some continuity across the front of the center. We increased those based on the comments we heard regarding people cutting across the parking lot. We now have islands entirely across the frontage opposite the Kmart. Going to give you a nice channelized route down the front into the back part of the lot. These are also landscaped down, so it's going to be a pretty nice aesthetic improvement on top of just the channelization of the traffic. We looked also, there was a concern about some waviness out in the parking lot. I took a drive out and I took a look at the parking area. And this area here seems to be the most significant and is probably the most prominent because it's what people experience when they go into the center. If you roll through here, it does jump up and down. So we're going to offer to do some additional regrading of that area to flatten that out, to get rid of that waviness that's going on through there, which would significantly make that a little better experience going into the parking lot. In the back of the center, we did a couple changes. One mention was that we reduced the lighting levels. We actually took a couple of the light poles out of there, which significantly dropped the light levels in the back of the center, so you're not going to get as much glow up the hill. We also changed the parking configuration to give wider drive aisles into the back of the stores. There was a concern about truck deliveries being able to circulate in the back of the center. We now have considerably more room, allowing a box truck to easily roll through the back of the center. We also added a raised sidewalk along the back of the loading dock to give a much safer movement for pedestrians if needed to the back of the center. Also, we shortened this retaining wall. Previously, this retaining wall wrapped all the way around. We reduced the length of that and graded this area to give a much nicer appearance and actually opens that up quite a bit in the back, so it's a much better layout for the center.
That didn't take away from the tree buffer in the back, though, right?
No,
Okay.
because this is where that area is now with that, it's got like scrub plantings and you got that little road through there.
That's fine.
This is actually going to be a considerable improvement from what's out there today.
Just want to keep that buffer as best as we
We're
can
not
between the
touching that.
residential.
That's up in this area. That's going to remain. It's pretty much open right through here, if you ever been back there.
I'm sorry if we're going to be doing questions as we go. Now that it's intended to be employee parking in the rear, is there an employee entrance in the rear, or are they going to have to walk around the
Well, most of
building?
these stores have entrances in the back today. I can't speak for the tenants, all of them. All
Kmart
of them
did.
have entrances. I can't speak for how
No, I
anybody's
meant-
going to get in, but there are entrances in the back today.
I meant for the Stop and Shop. Is there an employee entrance on that backside?
There'll be
Okay.
a rear entrance for employees. Some of the other changes we did is there was a concern about people turning into the Dunkin' Donuts. We added additional signage here, which is in this new island to discourage that, to give people a little indication that that's not allowed. Also, we added some parking here, which adds a nice funneling of that, because today the island cuts across at an angle. There's a striped area. The parking will actually give you a more uniform drive aisle through there, which will be a little better for the traffic flow in the area, so it should considerably improve it.
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would you prefer if we wait till you finish before we ask questions?
No, you can ask questions anytime if it's something I'm talking about.
So long as you get back to that little spot right there, where I mentioned it the last time about the Dunkin' Donuts. My idea was, we had a lot of difficulty getting that red light out there for that shopping center. So what we want to try to do is to utilize that red light the best we can. We can't force people to use it. But what we can do, I figure if you come out of the, we're not trying to get the Dunkin' Donuts people to whatever happens there. They come in and go to the Dunkin' Donuts, or they come in this way, go to the Dunkin' Donuts. But we want to make it the same amount of difficulty to come in this way and get to the shopping center as it does to come up by the red light and get in there. That would just, and the way to do that is to make them turn and come to the left as they come in where that shopping center is.
You know what, we have our traffic guy getting up in a minute. I think the overall circulation for that kind of question would probably be better answered by him.
You're a little bit scared of that, right?
That's his world.
I'm sorry, I understand. But I just want to ask you before, you want us to wait until the whole presentation, then ask you other questions? We
Well,
can do that.
anything has to do with site, ask at any time, but any traffic questions, if you could wait for our traffic expert, that would be best.
Okay.
You discussed the blacktop a little bit. At the last time we talked about this, we discussed the blacktop throughout the entire parking lot. Where do we end on that? What do you, the parking lot the entire parking lot needs some blacktop work.
Well, the entire parking lot will be at a minimum milled and overlay. So
It
this
will be, okay.
Yes, so this will be completely new surface for the entire thing.
The shaded area here is showing grading area.
This is full depth replacement where we have areas over here, like you have the waves, where it's obviously a breakdown of the subsurface of the asphalt. This will repair that. Everything else, mill and overlay, will all look brand new.
Could I ask you one more question on that? You're putting those barriers at the, those are curves at the bottom
Yeah, these here.
to distinguish those islands, correct? Could you just take maybe one of those islands and put a curve all the way up through this so that they won't run all the way across there? So they won't have.
Perpendicular.
Perpendicular. Make one of those parking areas.
I was gonna ask what that
Yeah,
was.
that's what I was
This today is hatched. We actually made this into an island, so we have added that
I'm a
feature.
little further over, so they don't be racing across there.
No, but I think they got it, Harold. Good, Mike. It's Mike, right? Is that
We
right?
got this one here.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
We tend not to like to do it over here.
Okay.
Because it's a shopping cart oriented, and you know, when you get a shopping cart in the wrong island, you gotta hop a curb, it's a problem. This is actually a good break point between the two major shopping cart users.
So maybe just clarify what those triangles are, right? That's an actual island there,
An
right?
island, a raised island.
Right, so those are two islands in there, right, that are gonna break up that, so you have basically two parking lots, if I'm understanding it right?
Yeah, and we're
Right.
gonna landscape it too.
That was gonna be my next question.
And also, we added too, there was a request, we have that existing island going out to the center, that's actually gonna be improved, and we're gonna add some nice shrubbery along there. I don't wanna add anything too high, but a nice shrubbery is gonna give it a nice effect on the way in.
What about by Baldwin, where you wanted to make that so they couldn't drive around that one area?
Yes, that, coming out of that, it's on the left there, right?
Right there,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, that's something we looked at, and actually, if we were to put that island in, we'd lose about 7 spaces. But we could put it, and it would cut off the traffic. One of the things, this kind of rolls to another issue that we're dealing with. We met with the DEP recently, we talked about the stormwater for the site. And going through it, we're actually going to have to do, this area, as far as the DEP is considered, as an area of new pavement, so we're going to have to do some special treatments here, and we're probably going to end up having to put a drainage feature here anyway, so we can add that cut-in island, so we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We're probably going to end up with some porous pavement areas here in the new areas, which you've obviously seen around town. Some great examples around town. We're going to use the same treatment. Working with Mary over at DEP, she's given us some good direction on how we can achieve that. She was happy with our stormwater treatment systems, but we just need to do a little more on the infiltration side of it. And we'll be able to bring that in the next update. Other than that, any other questions on the layout changes from this latest submission?
The employee parking, there's gonna be significant signage for it, right? That it's employee parking?
I don't know if we were going to sign it, we were going to more indicate it. So
As long as there's some indication.
It's not really accessible for patrons to park back there, so not really desirable parking.
Its remoteness kind of drives its use. It's excellent if you're working in one of these stores and you use a back entrance, but if you're shopping there, it's really not going to be the selection that you're going to make. And I think it should be noted too, with all these changes, where we've added these islands, and we've actually been able to maintain the number of parking spaces. So we still have the same ratio as that's out there today. So it's a good solution as far as being able to provide these islands, and we added some more parking spaces over here, so we got to watch.
He got the variance, go to where he did.
I hate to keep harping on that parking lot there, but in most of the shopping centers that I go into, you take that most of the stores within that shopping center, the big stores, are distinguished from the rest of them, that you can't just drive straight across them parking lot and get to the next one. You always have to have a distinguishing feat, like where Kmart is. if that store could be distinguished with an aisle that goes over through there, so that all that parking over in there comes, it's not assigned to that store, but it looks like it is.
Well, I think that's what this island here does.
No, that store is way over here on the right, is it not?
Go a little further right.
I think he's asking just to
Between
put a raised
Kmart and
curb.
The way you're doing your work.
Well,
Well, let's wait till the traffic fella comes, we'll argue with
just
him.
from a drainage and a trip hazard, I don't like to have curved, two-sided curbs, but it's something that maybe we can discuss with the traffic.
Sure.
Drainage runs down.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a drainage issue.
Your drainage all
Going
comes
down
down
anyway.
anyway.
Yeah, it does, it does.
Well, we want to make sure, though, that we're not going to lose any parking either. That's one of the concerns that we have. So we want to make sure, and that was one of the things that drives it. We're trying to balance adequate number of parking spaces because we certainly don't meet the technical requirement of the code right now, although I think on a functional basis, we're fine. So we're trying to balance that, and we're trying to be very, very careful.
Sure.
You meet the
But
ratio.
to put an island there, we're not talking about an 8-foot or 9-foot island. We're just talking about a curb that goes straight up to the middle that you can't drive across.
We don't,
It's something that you should entertain the idea of looking at it anyhow, to see whether it'll work.
we'll talk about it. We are, and I'm not exaggerating, I think we are down to inches in terms of being in compliance with certain parking requirements and the length of certain parking spaces, et cetera, especially on that particular side of the shopping center. So, again, trying to balance it so that there won't be any change in the ratio from what's out there now to what will be there. You had a question?
Your ratio that you have now is the same ratio that you got a variance for, not last time, the time before, correct?
No.
Oh, okay, I thought you said it was.
No. The ratio that's out there now is a ratio.
I'm sorry, on here is what I meant.
The ratio that is out in the field, for reasons I cannot explain, actually does not meet the ratio for the variance.
Okay.
The controlling variance. So we need to get a new variance for a new ratio. But the ratio that's out there now, we have met that ratio with this plan.
Gotcha.
Okay. And the reason I make that comparison is because everybody really, I mean, we can talk about the theoretical required number, but what we're really concerned about is the functional requirement and the operational aspects of it. So I wanted you to understand that compared to what's out there now, we'll have the same ratio of parking. And we certainly have sufficient capacity and excess parking now. But we will have to rectify that discrepancy.
You can't leave it just yet.
Okay.
What's below those curves right there?
Which ones?
That's going across
The islands,
the islands. What's below that?
driving aisle.
That's driving?
Yeah, this is the drive aisle here, and these are the curbs that will all be landscaped and raised curbs. It's just to define the limits of the parking.
How
And is
wide
there
is
parking on the bottom side?
Yes,
Parking
there
on
is.
that side.
Yes.
Parking all along here.
I can't see that.
Yeah, neither can I.
And there's parking down there, then the drive aisle, then those islands, and then more parking than the
Correct.
the islands. So there's parking all around the perimeter.
Thanks a lot.
Mr. Canning? I'll move this along, guys, if you...
I was just making sure there were no more questions on site.
Good evening. For the record, John Canning with VHB, a professional engineer licensed to practice in the state of New York. I guess a couple of things off the bat. First of all, Mr. Chairman, we've heard your concern or your expressed interest to see something perhaps over here. After the meeting, we'll put our heads together. You saw from the last meeting, we were able to come up with a lot of suggestions, and hopefully we'll be as productive this time around. The second issue that you raised is the access from Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
I was just out there this evening, and it's kind of interesting. It's a one-way entrance from Route 6 to serve Dunkin' Donuts and Valvoline. And there's currently a sign right at this location that faces into our site that says, in black and white, no exit to Route 6. And then if you come in about 40 feet, there are two more signs that face in this direction. So if I was coming in here, there are 2 do not enter signs on either side. So to the extent that we have done almost everything we can, we're prohibiting, to the extent that vehicle and traffic law allows us to, vehicles from exiting our site and going out the one-way entrance. We're also actually proposing a no left turn sign at this location to further discourage people from doing that. From my perspective, what was interesting is when you get out to the street, there are 2 signs on the driveway that say one way, and they point into the site. But from the perspective of somebody who's coming out of the site, they're not really very good because they're perpendicular. You can't see them until you're up beside them. They're okay if you're on the street, but they're not really telling you anything you need to know anyway, because if you want to go in, you can go in. If it was a one-way out, it would be helpful. So what could be done, and it's really an issue for Valvoline and for Dunkin' Donuts, or perhaps the town could take it on and put the signs on the right of way. You could put 2 do not enter signs on either side of the driveway facing into the site so that people who come out that way would see it. So, I mean, either way, we're supportive of whatever the town wants to do on this, but we believe it's really an issue for these 2 properties, that we've got signs here, and we've got a sign here, and we have another sign here.
Can I give you a little history on that sign?
Yes.
When that Dunkin' Donuts came in there, and that station there on to the left of it, we tried to get a way that they could have to go in by the red light, come in and enter from the back.
Right.
Dunkin' Donuts put up a big concern about that. They don't want to be entering from no parking lot to come to their, to Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts did not want people doing this?
They want
And come in
direct,
there.
no, they want a direct
They
Route
want
6
direct
access.
off of Route 6.
Off of Route 6.
Yeah.
Well, of
Okay.
course. I mean, it's a convenience business.
And then it came until we have a public hearing.
Yes.
Then we come to find out the state would not allow them to come back out.
Correct. Well, I
So they
would
have to
understand
go
why.
through the parking lot.
Right.
So the board was very concerned that all the trouble we had to putting that red light up, that the people was gonna come there, instead of going to the red light, they're gonna go right through there and go to the shopping center.
Come in this way to the shopping center?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone coming from southbound.
But guess what
Right.
happened? They said, people won't do that. Biggest mistake, understatement that ever been made. 60% of the people does that, comes right in there
Correct.
and go to the shopping center. If they go into Kmart, they come right in there. They don't go to that red light.
Anybody from Mayapack?
Purpose of that red light was to make it safe for the people that goes in and out of there, that shopping center. All I'm trying to do is to accomplish something that we couldn't do the last time,
Right.
because we believed that nobody would come in there.
Well, let me,
Now, wait a minute. All I'm
ahead.
asking you to do
yes.
is to slow them down, come in there, don't give them the right of way to come in there and just turn right and go right where they want to go. Make it so that the effort to get in there from where you come in at Dunkin' Donuts will almost take the same effort it does to go to that red light to come in there. And the way you do that is to make them turn when they come in there.
I understand what you're saying, but I
You
can't
don't agree
imagine.
with it?
From here out, right, is not our property. And if,
So when you come in, John, so when you cross into the supermarket lot, is there
before,
a way you
no, I
can-
think what the chairman is saying is when you come in onto Dunkin' Donuts, you go around the Dunkin'
No,
Donuts.
I
From
didn't say
Dunkin'
that.
Donuts to your property.
Yes.
So now where your finger is,
Yes.
Turn left.
curb, and you gotta make a left or a right or some
Well,
maneuver.
there's an island, so you have to make a left or a right.
No, but he wants you to make a left.
Make a left.
Before you get to
He
that.
doesn't want you to be able to access the
Left here?
stores in Kmart
So there's, you have to
without
get
having the
channeled into
inconvenience
it.
of going the other way and coming back.
Right, so where that parking is, John, if you kept them in a curbed lane that makes a left, you have
Yes.
to slow down, make a left turn, and then merge right back into the traffic aisle. That's now taking you 30 seconds to slow down and make the turn. It's more convenient to go to the light and get into the lot.
But if I go to Dunkin' Donuts and I want to go to Kmart after,
You
I
gotta
have to
do a little maneuver.
leave?
No, you've got to.
You
No,
just
no,
gotta-
no.
you
You
gotta
make
come
the
around.
left and you go back around.
Left and a right, but
Yeah, it's, yeah.
we're not trying to get the people, if you're going to Dunkin' Donuts,
Yes.
then you go to Dunkin' Donuts, you go out, you make your left, and you come back out, and you come back through the red light. That's simple.
Well, if I may just,
But we're not after the guy to go into Dunkin' Donuts. We're after the person
who comes from here and goes straight in here.
and turn right and
Go
go
to
up to the
Kmart.
shopping center.
I get it, okay? I'll say two things. First of all, principally, you get red lights like this put in because getting off the highway is nowhere near as difficult as getting back on the highway. So if you did not have a red light here, you'd have people backed up here, and you know what Route 6 is like, and they'd say, okay, I've been here for 2 minutes, the next little gap I get, I'm gonna go for it.
I know you're talking as a traffic engineer, you're talking as an engineer, but you have no idea what it took on that red light. The conversation was on that red light, and this up here, the state would not, the state says that they won't go in there. They only can go into Dunkin' Donuts. And to the most understatement of the year, the minute it opened, they went right through there.
Well, let me offer,
The only thing that was good about the red light is
yes,
they can't come back out there. Because if they could, they would.
yes.
Understood.
Well, let me,
And
go ahead.
5% of the people comes back out there. If you don't think so, sit there and watch them.
I agree, and that's why I said that perhaps maybe the answer to that issue is to put the do not enter signs out here on the street where they're legally enforceable. But with regard to,
Sometimes we all don't follow signs. I'm not classifying anybody. We just don't follow signs. What we got to do is to make it so to train people what is going to happen. And way to do that is, you know that in traffic, you put things in the road to what they call calming traffic.
yes,
All I'm asking you to do is to calm that traffic that's coming in there. And if you can do that, any way that you want to do it, it's fine.
we will
But
go,
just try.
we will go back and we'll have a look at it.
And just try.
Okay. I've two comments
Now,
on it.
I know if you deal with traffic, you know what I'm talking about. I says calming traffic.
I do.
Yeah.
But I have two issues. My first are questions that we have to consider. The first one is, you know, how big of a problem is it today? And the fact that Dunkin' Donuts representatives aren't here saying you're building something and we already have half the population of Carmel coming in here to the shopping center is some measure of an indication. And on the other side, if we come up with something, I want to make
John,
sure
just
that
interrupt,
whatever.
Because Dunkin' Donuts is very happy to have that traffic driving through their site, because people are gonna stop and buy
Well,
cups
but
of
if
coffee.
but if it
They're
was,
not opposed, they love that.
they
They're
do,
not-
but if
they're
it
not
was,
opposed to that, that's
my
true.
concern is if it's a safety issue, it should be fixed. And I would imagine that if it was a safety issue and people were having accidents in Dunkin' Donuts driveway, you would think they would, if I was there, I would be here. And so on the back side of it is, I don't want to come in and put a left turn in here and have people doing sort of U-turns in the parking lot and then heading down in the other direction. I don't want to take something that is a mistake when it was put in, but it's not as bad a problem as what we might end up putting in. So we're gonna take it back. We kind of only half understood your concern. We understood the going out part,
Thanks. Thank you.
but not the coming in part so well. So we're gonna take that back. We'll have a look at it. We'll see if we can come up with something that is creative, that we feel will work without creating additional consequences.
The other alternative that I would tell you is that I will encourage the board, if you can't do nothing, encourage the board to have a traffic study done there to see what can be done. I don't want to go that route if it don't have to. That's, you know, I would like for you to take a good look at it. For the simple reason, the last applicant is on the west side of the road. What's the danger at the intersection, if you take a good look at it, is when they come down East Lake or North Lake, it's East Lake Boulevard,
Yes.
correct? East Lake Boulevard, instead of going across and hit that red light, they diagonally across,
Go
and
straight
that is a danger.
Okay, I understand what you're saying in that regard.
And we could not get the DOT to approve a red light at that,
At East Lake Boulevard.
Correct.
we couldn't
Okay.
get them to put a red light there. So
Oh,
we
I-
got,
so
we
I
got.
thought you were talking about this red
No,
light.
but on Route 6, immediately across from the
I
Dunkin'
know where
Donuts
he's,
entrance.
yes.
So
So
that,
that's where you were trying to get a red light put in?
Yeah, we're trying to get it so on East Lake Boulevard, there'd be a light there and Dunkin' Donuts, and they wouldn't do that because it says too close together.
Yeah, okay.
That little spot right there causes many minor accidents.
So
coming out of there.
the East Lake Boulevard, right across here?
Yes.
Yes.
Just take a look at it.
Okay, so that's actually a quick segue to give you like an overview of the traffic study that we did. We basically studied the 3 access points, which is here, and on Baldwin Lane. We also studied the intersection of Baldwin Lane at Route 6. We did traffic counts in the peak PM highway hour and the peak Saturday midday hour. We determined the peak hours. We increased the existing volumes by 5% to account for any traffic that may come along in the near future. The prevailing growth rate at this point is under 0.5%, so we think that's a reasonable estimate. We generated traffic for the proposed new store, considering the fact that it's bigger, obviously. It's a bigger supermarket, it's more space, and it's perhaps a more prominent name. So based on that, we're projecting that the proposed action will add 150 trips, up to 150 trips to the surrounding roadways during the peak hour. We took these trips and we assigned them to the 3 intersections and to the surrounding roadways based on the existing traffic patterns, because we had counts at the driveways, so we know how many people come in here, whether they turn left or right. And then we took an intersection analysis software package called Synchro, which compares the peak hour volumes to the number of lanes and the amount of green time you get and the amount of trucks you have, and it calculates the average delay per movement based on the peak hour volumes. So we did that both with and without the proposed improvements to the supermarket, and we determined that, let me just go to my notes here, that the increases in delays will be less than 8 seconds on all movements and less than 2 seconds on most movements, and that all intersections will operate at level of service D or better, and there'll be no changes in levels of service. The level of service is like a rating for an intersection, A being the best and F being the worst, and typically a level of service D is considered tolerable for peak hour conditions. We'd prefer a C, but it's a peak hour, we can live with D. So our analysis indicated, and there's one exception I'll get to in a moment, that all of the intersections will operate at level of service D. There'll be no change in level of service. There'll be a few seconds increase in delay on some movements. The one exception is the East Lake Boulevard approach to Route 6, which is a level of service F now. It'll be a level of service F in the future, and it'll be a level of service F in the future with the project. And the delays on that approach are primarily attributable to the heavy volume of traffic on Route 6. So other than focusing and seeing if we can find a way to discourage people and reduce the volume of traffic cutting through here, I don't think that there's any.
And you'll move that intersection to a D.
We'll move this intersection to a D?
I think the one that's going in there, I think that the one that's going into, it'll move to a D. And you know, as far as the board's concerned, you know, D is not a great thing to have.
No, it's not, but D is for diploma, so. If we can get to a D.
I mean, we're talking about the peak.
If we can get it to a D.
That's the only thing we can rate things on. Whatever time it is, that's the only thing we rate it on, is what it's rated at.
Right.
Yeah. And most of that long day is an F. It is not your fault, it's not coming in there, but that's what it's rated at.
Correct.
But if we could just move it to, it doesn't take much to move it.
So we're going to look at that.
Just take a look at it.
And as Mike indicated, there are other improvements to the site. We're getting rid of the waviness. We're stopping the cutting through across the parking lots. We've also eliminated this slip ramp that you expressed concern about the last time, that would allow trucks to go out to Baldwin Lane. So, you know, when you review the application in total, these are beneficial impacts associated with the proposed action.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify so we understand when we go back, and we are sure that we're looking at the right issue? The concern with the cut through through Dunkin' Donuts into the site is largely related to traffic from East Lake Boulevard? That's really what we're trying to address?
From Route 6.
Okay. Because I'm trying to understand have there been accidents? Is it a safety issue, or is it a matter that,
There's no fatalities that I know of right at that intersection. There's some been in that road there, but none that I can know that's at that intersection.
okay, because I'm trying to understand why we're trying to do it, not just because it was something that was originally contemplated when Dunkin' Donuts was
It's the issue
developed.
that it's not serious accidents, it's congestion and small accidents. That's the kind of things that happen frequently. So it doesn't raise to the level of necessarily traffic reports from the police department, but every day, there's somebody doing something they're not supposed to do, someone being startled by that and causing a sort of somebody backing up on Route 6 or in the parking lot. It's unusual, and it's just not optimum.
And you must understand, it's this board's obligation to address every F intersection there is when it comes up, if they can. That's an F intersection right there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand,
And what we're trying to do, all I'm trying to do, and I don't, the board can speak for itself, is trying to make it so that we can raise it up one point. You can't get through school with a D.
I'm just,
Understand?
yeah, I'm just trying to understand
It's a safety issue.
what it relates to.
It's
Okay, but it's a safety issue not because of traffic that travels through from Dunkin' Donuts into our site, but that you believe that there's an incentive for people to do those cut acrosses
Cut across and go
of
through
of
that.
Route 6, and that's
If you can
resulting in
slow
these
it
fender
down,
benders.
and I said to the engineer, what they call you, just calm the traffic there. If you calm that traffic, that will slow everything down. See, I've seen them come off the top of the hill, come down, and it's still going through the red light to get in the shopping center. They'll go up to Dunkin' Donuts and then cut through. That is dangerous. That is that's the most dangerous part of that intersection. We tried to fix it with a red light, but we couldn't get approval from the DOT.
Yeah, those link lights are pretty difficult. You need to have certain conditions.
I just want you to look at it somewhere. I asked the engineer, don't try to raise it to a C or B. You'll never get there. Get it out, make it a D minus.
All right, I just wanted to clarify that. If you don't have any more traffic-related questions or site improvement questions, we would like to turn to the architectural elevations
Sure, I don't have
and
any
review those with you, if that's okay?
I think we're ready.
Okay, good. So we'll do that. Keith Michaels is going to come up and explain to you what we have in mind for the renovations for the smaller stores. These are facade renovations. We've also given some thought to signage, both wall signage and some other aspects of signage related to the smaller stores. Again, we're trying to take a global view of this, and we really are invested in upgrading the shopping center. And we think signage is an important part of that package. While Keith is putting those drawings up too, I will give you a quick update. We did receive, I will call it a sign-off, or a statement of no further review necessary from the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. We were asked to make a submission to them to make sure that there are no important cultural or archaeological artifacts in the area or historic sites in the area. So we have checked that off the list. And at your last meeting, you did declare your intent to be lead agency, and we have completed the circulation process. So the 30-day clock is starting to run, and that will expire on February 5th. So we took care of those kinds of housekeeping things.
I'll see the flow of traffic from Route 6 and look just into the, it's like we're cutting across.
My name is Keith Michaels. I am a founding principal of the firm Michaels in Waldron. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New York and have been since 1984. The portion of the project that I was asked to review is what I call the middle section. between the two end cap uses, which would be the Stop and Shop and the Kmart, the smaller stores that are between now. I think all of you are well aware what the center currently looks like. There's a covered canopy, sloped roof, brick columns and a colonnade that runs across the entire frontage of those stores, and aluminum and glass that provide an opportunity to see into the various storefronts. And as it currently exists, there's a brick bulkhead at the base. The intention, and we're excited about it, is to really redo the entire skin and to reconfigure the covered walkway in such a manner to upgrade it, provide new materials that we feel are compatible with the neighborhood, and also do one additional thing, and that's to take the overall facade and to break it up and to point out the prime features of the property. If you notice in the upper left-hand corner, there's an aerial view where the space is located, and we're looking at several main features to the design. There's a concern that at each end there would be an anchor store. The anchor stores are higher. They are likely to be of at least a marginally different character, and we wanted to have a way to separate and announce the difference from one location to the other. So at each end of the property, at each end of the design, the left, where we have it labeled pizzeria, and on the right side labeled Old Times, there's a different character to the facade. And that's placed to form essentially a reveal, or a space between the anchor store and the other stores. And then we have, starting from the left, 4 bays that we would essentially make of the same character. It's a clapboard-like siding, except that we're looking at it as being a cementitious and non-combustible, sustainable material that we feel is appropriate for commercial use. So the visual appearance of it is that of clapboard that we feel would relate very well to the neighborhood and have I believe a softened approach. At the center of the design, if you look at the aerial view, there's a point in which the building turns. It's not a straight line, it's somewhat of a knuckle, and we thought that was a feature that perhaps we should note and distinguish from the rest of the facade. So we've set forth a slightly different character to that. When one is underneath the canopy, there would be a higher ceiling there, and it has the capacity to have light go through it. So when one is walking underneath, there's an opportunity for a different experience at different points in the walk. And I think it's a feature that helps to orient a user as well. again, to the space to the right, we then have a break and develop a similar character to that which we have placed on the left-hand side. Through the whole design, it includes new cladding of columns, all new storefront windows where the glass would go down to the sidewalk level, which we feel is a feature that not only upgrades the center, but it enhances the tenant's ability to market their merchandise. And that, as a result, will create a more vibrant center. I'd like to, I haven't really pointed out the peaked roofs that we showed at the left, the right, and the middle. And those features are placed to break the cornice line of the facade, to make it more interesting, from a distance. And as I did mention earlier, when you're underneath, you would be able to experience a higher ceiling there and possibly the light from above. We've done some preliminary studies as well of the area underneath the canopy. And, if I could back up just one moment. We've shown some representative signage that would go in the center. It's not, it's not ready for a final review. When we do, we'll have the individual tenant signage in it, but we envision signage that would be channel letters on a raceway and have the ability to have multiple colors. We've shown the signage conceptually to have 2-foot-high letters typically, and occasionally in some spots that they would be 2'4". Now, when the actual tenant signage comes in, it may vary from that, but we put this together to give a representation of our thinking at this point. Going forward, I do have a handout that was not presented with our initial package, and that includes just the signage that we're considering in the canopy area itself underneath it. It's signage that would be perpendicular to the wall, and as we read the ordinance, it would be a variance.
So you're saying in addition to the wall signage, a perpendicular hanging sign, so when you're under there, you know what the stores are?
So it's
Like
really,
Pub Plaza.
it's more pedestrian oriented.
We have it at Pub Plaza right now,
Okay.
and it's,
So when you're coming from your car, you'll see the wall sign.
Yeah.
When you're underneath, you can't see the wall sign, so you want to have some identity, and that gives it, and we feel that it's pedestrian scale and set forth in a way that would work. I do want to, as a pointing out the handout, there's one feature in there that is unintentional at this point. It shows a different finish to the sidewalk. It's not intended at this point to be changing that sidewalk.
we were looking at the sign.
Got a little exuberant.
We know that is not permitted under zoning ordinance. We recognize that sign isn't contemplated in the zoning ordinance. I'm pleased to hear that it's at other locations and that you you've welcomed it. I think it adds kind of to the quaintness and the elegance of the center, as well as being functional in terms of wayfinding. So we'd like some feedback from your board if you have any thoughts about that. If it's something that you think we can continue to pursue, we'd like to be able to do that. We think it adds to the character of the overall experience, and that's what we're trying to achieve here and looking at these different aspects of the project.
Code requires all canopies to be 7 feet tall, so I would assume that is for head bumping. So for the same, I would ask that that be 7 or more feet high
Okay.
to the underside.
What does it say now?
It doesn't have a measurement on it right now?
You mean that lady is bumping her head?
Nope. Right now, it does not have a measurement. Do you know how high that is?
How high?
The
Bottom of the,
tenant sign inside, the non-illuminated,
I think it would be higher than the top of the glass mullion, which is at 8'7" now.
Perfect.
So it would exceed,
Perfect.
it would exceed that, so that one's head wouldn't hit it, and people wouldn't have the opportunity to
Right.
play with it.
Sure. Kids will be jumping in.
You said the sidewalk is going to remain as it is today?
It's intended now that it'll remain as it is. The rendering shows some, perhaps a different character to it, and that has not part of this presentation.
You pointed out the gabled components. There are also two other raised areas which appear to have openings or windows or something. I think you described the gabled areas as being higher ceiling below, almost like an atrium kind of effect. Is that correct?
Correct.
What are the other two? Are they similar? The two raised sections on either side of the center gable?
I wanted to have a component that broke the line of this wall facade and acted, I guess, visually as a bookend to that center element. And what I think could happen below is that the ceiling could be raised in those areas, and it just gives a little bit more more of an opportunity for developing a design as one is walking underneath the canopy.
That's fine. I'm just trying to understand what I'm seeing. The components of that, the next piece of that question is, the renderings suggest that the clapboard, that it's open, it's discontinuous under those locations, from what I'm seeing. In other words, where the pizzeria sign is, that's just hanging or something. There's no continuous solid facade at the front face of that all across. Is that correct?
Yes, that's left open, and let's see if there's a rendering that might.
Yeah, that, I think, shows it fairly well, where it says pizzeria, right in the middle one?
Yeah, where pizzeria is there,
There's
and
no-
then-
there's-
and then on the other side,
Right.
as well. So the signage would be handled in a similar way, that there would be channel letters, but it would, there would be some open air behind
Right,
it.
I'm
and
less concerned,
something
I'm sorry.
skeleton,
Yeah, I understand. I'm less concerned about the sign. I'm just trying to understand that, what's there. Now, on the main gable, it appears to be mullions as if there's windows there, but those are not windows?
We're developing that design right now. It would be screened in some way. We don't want birds to get in there, so we want to be sure that we have it detailed in such a manner so that we protected from having wildlife get into those areas. So it would be transparent, but I'd expect there'd be at least some kind of a screen in there that would prevent, birds, et cetera, from getting in there.
The, let's call it the ceiling in those atrium areas, is that in fact open to the truss structure that we see in the gable? In other words, will you, if you're walking under and looked up, is that open through and you're going to see that truss structure?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Fully understand what it's showing.
Do you have one in a place like this somewhere that can be seen? Like Florida?
No, I can't think of a center that has exactly that. I certainly could find examples of the component pieces that, I think would provide a very good example of
Sure.
what you could expect. Our renderings, our renderer said, gee, I wish I had more time. I maybe should have developed one rendering instead of having 5 different views and to get a better flavor. But, so I think, we probably have the ability to either develop the rendering or provide some examples of the component parts.
This is not a negative question. Why you come up with that rendering if you haven't got it somewhere else? Why you think that rendering would fit in this site?
Oh, well, I do.
Why?
I understand.
Because you have viewed where this is going.
Several reasons. One, the things that we consider. One is scale. One is the scale of the center and how it will be viewed from the street or from the parking lot. There's an endless examples of shopping centers that are scaled in a similar fashion, similar heights, and frankly, what we have is of a similar scale. The signage is of a similar scale. The materials that we're using are materials that are in the neighborhood, that are used throughout this area, throughout New England, and they're materials that are scaled and are comfortable. For example, the horizontal lines from the siding, I believe will provide a better and more comfortable feel than if it had been a stucco or an ephes that is one single flat surface. The height, the heights of the buildings and the spaces, they're all things that we've seen and we recognize how they relate to a human scale and how they relate to the scale of someone from a distance driving into the car.
Do you think in riding Route 6 through that area, say for about a mile and a half or 2 miles, that would distinguish itself by being unique from anything else, or would it blend in to the...
I think to some extent this center is set back from the highway.
And it's by itself.
So there's some visibility issues to begin with. I think the idea that there are certain features that maybe stand out where you can get a glimpse from the highway will give a sense that there is something back there worth seeing. I hope I answered your question.
You made a good attempt. You know, it looks, just from my appearance, it looks like it's kind of a modern construction, correct? It's kind of a modernistic, and that's really actually, in driving through the town and maybe 4 or 5 miles, when you're looking at some site that you want to make, does it blend in with the characteristics of what we have in the area?
Well, I think that the materials blend in. It's not identical to everything else in the neighborhood.
I don't think the materials is that concern.
Okay.
It's the design itself. Don't get this wrong. I told you from the beginning, don't get this as negative.
Okay.
I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from, how you, where that is going to fit in. It's going to fit in this community and in this town. Is it going to be something that we want to put here so everybody else coming here behind will do the same thing? Or is it something that you're trying to say it will blend right into the area?
I think it'll blend in, though
And the main thing is to attract customers.
It's not, it's not identical to the other buildings in the neighborhood, but I believe it is compatible.
And similar?
As I go
Similar.
through the
You're saying it's
neighborhood-
similar?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that in the neighborhood, there's a variety of.
Don't strain anymore. You've answered the question.
Okay. I will stop.
I actually have a couple of comments. I love that we have the peaks to break up the straight line, the flat roofs, and I think that's something we're trying to get away from in our community. We're trying to build something, we're trying to create a traditional feel in our community. We're trying to create a more pleasant Main Street charm, and we want that to show in our shopping centers as well. The signage that you showed underneath the canopies, I think is a great idea. It does add appeal to it. But I think maybe to what Chairman is trying to say also is that we're looking for something that's a little bit more traditional, that fits with the rest of our town. My question is, looking at the columns, what are we dressing those columns in? You know, are we looking at stone? When we look at the buildings, the both end caps, Kmart and Stop and Shop, are they the same level? Is there, I see a symmetry and the balance between the roofs, but is it continuous at both ends? So I'm asking a couple of different questions, overall the aesthetics of how this building is going to fit in.
The end caps are marginally higher than the middle section is. The Stop and Shop is not part of our presentation. Obviously, I've seen it, and I do feel what we have done would be compatible with the Stop and Shop design. On the other end, in the other extreme, the Kmart on the right, it's my understanding that that we do not have
Have no
any
control over that.
opportunity to control what happens there. So, so what that means to me is that it is what it is now. It will change at some point in the future.
Right, Kmart's a different story.
And we don't know what it is, so it wanted to have a space, that is treated differently than the main body of the center to allow for that kind of announce a break.
Right, and that breaks it up, and that looks wonderful. But in essence, to Stop and Shop, I see that, and I know you have no you're not related with Stop and Shop, but I see the continuity of what Stop and Shop has on the front, and I don't think we really had summed up with what design we were going with yet. I think what you showed us last time was a prototype, if I'm correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so for the rest of the shopping plaza, we're basing this on what we've seen as the prototype, and that is not really where we're looking to go. So I think what we probably need to try and do is determine what Stop and Shop would look like first.
Correct. Your board discussed last time that the materials that they were so concerned with would be okay, but with different textures and different colors.
Right.
But they could go with that actual product so that they could reach their ratings that they were looking for.
So as
But
long,
there were
using
different
that-
colors you were discussing last time. That's,
I think, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but I think what we're sort of dancing around a little bit here is that this, while this is very nice, I want to point out that this shopping center is not at the intersection of 84 and Route 6 or some other area where there are a rather a larger amount of box stores and development and so forth, and it is a larger established commercial center, okay? This is in the middle of the heart of the town here, really. It's kind of viewed, and I think there was even a letter that indicated this is a neighborhood shopping center, as opposed to, like a Woodbury Commons or a massive kind of enclave of Walmarts and all the rest that we see in so many places, and typically at higher access locations on major roads and so forth. So I think that's something that we need to be very aware of, and my gut is saying that this design, albeit nice, is not consistent with what I think the town is trying to go for in this kind of circumstance. I think it's too contemporary. It's not toward the traditional lines that we're thinking, that I believe I've heard from the town, as far as a sort of traditional, as you put it, Main Street kind of appearance. Okay, the entire character. I'm not talking about specific materials. I think the materials probably could be used in an alternate thing. It's the overall character, in my opinion, that is just. It's going to stand out as, wow. Of course, a little bit like a neon sign, in a sense. In my opinion, I think that we really need to rethink this visually. I know that this is your new Stop and Shop, it has to do a little bit with branding and that sort of thing and all that. But I just don't think I think it's a bit off the mark for what the town is anticipating and moving toward.
And if I can just add one thing, I think the last meeting we had, the rendering that you had showed us, you said you needed something to show us, correct?
Right.
And you also.
And for the middle stores, not for
No,
not for Stop and Shop.
For Stop and Shop.
oh, that
No,
was
for Stop and Shop, that's Stop and Shop's
Prototype.
design and prototype. That is the store that Stop and Shop is now building.
That's the newest one that was fresh off the
I was-
printing board, is what I think they said.
The middle section that we showed, the smaller tenant sections that we had submitted, was something that we put in as a placeholder with the understanding that we were exploring really upgrading it and modifying it.
But you did say that you could take the Stop and Shop that you had and darken it or change things slightly. I'm not saying to make it blacker, but slightly darkening things, which could actually, if you put a little bit of.
Work into.
If you made it a little bit darker, it wouldn't look so
Right.
modern, I guess.
Because what you
is-
showed with the Stop
a
and
little
Shop
bit of color.
frontage, it was kind of.
Are we looking at
free.
the same building?
If you put some color on that and made that a darker brown, I
Gotta
think
put
it.
a whole lot of other stuff on that too.
Well, it's something that they can simply do with the computer, I believe, so maybe worth trying to show you something with that.
I just would like to see something that he's got this somewhere. You must have this design somewhere that's built, have you not?
Well, I can I can find some examples of, you know, similar product.
Is this the first one that you have done like this?
You know, we've done many shopping
Yes.
centers, and they're not cookie cutters.
Yes.
You know, they're all
Different.
They're all somewhat different. So if you're asking if we have one that's a duplicate, no, you know, but we have examples that have the component parts. You know, we were trying to, and it was impressed on me to look at the design as a design that would fit in this location
Yes.
for Mahopac, and that would convey the image of where it is and what the neighborhood is and the general character of the neighborhood. I have attempted to do that, and with my eye and my look at the neighborhood, there's a variety of different architecture along Route 6. It isn't a single character. You know, we tried to incorporate call it a New England like flavor, with the use of the materials. I did not try to duplicate an 1830s colonial type, 1700s colonial type building. It's not. You know, it is. It's a steel frame shopping center. It's different than that, but we're trying to show respect for the other buildings that are in the neighborhood, and believe that it's an existing center. There's big elements on the left and big elements on the right, and whatever happens in the middle will have to relate to that, and to some extent, things that are a little unknown. You know, Kmart may change after this is built, and we wanted to have an opportunity to enable that to happen practically.
We are going to discuss that. Because what's Kmart going to do also? But, you know, to get back to this, in essence, might fit in here. We don't know. It may take some changes. You are open to changes, correct? It may take some changes. But we're looking at something now that, you know, that I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know where it fits at. Can you find a place where it fits? That we need you to just ride the road one more time from Carmel right on down through Mahopac until the end of the county there. That's only about 3 or 4 miles. And then tell us how this fits in this characteristics of this neighborhood. There is nothing in here that's that's New England, except I think the one that just was built up on the road there. It's got some New England style to it. But it's a totally different New England style than this is. You just have to convince the board that this is, and we want to always respect your right to build what Stop and Shop would like to see, with certain changes that would blend into our neighborhood. We're not going to sit down and dictate to him until we get to the spot where that could be in this process, that we will be able to have some help with that.
you're able to give some guidance as to what you think is
You know,
successful
You
and
know,
what
you
think
have
may
answered the concern for the evening. We will give you some guidance. Okay? We will meet with you and get some guidance. Is that agreeable?
Yeah, that's what we were hoping, one of the things that we would discuss tonight. I know that you're
Can
trying.
I tell you? You got it.
Good. I know that you're bringing an architectural consultant on board. I thought it would be appropriate for us to get together. We are willing to be flexible, as long as we can make it work for both Stop and Shop and
That
the
is
rest
true.
of the
We're
center.
not trying to change shop.
Well, and frankly, we don't want to design into a black hole not knowing what target we're trying to hit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that we really need some guidance, and that's why we asked for guidance. I heard a couple of things in terms of some of the materials and coloring and
And traditional,
shading and
more
traditional.
traditional.
Right. I don't know what that means, though, and that's why I think a sit-down meeting with professionals, that will be helpful to us, because frankly, we do think that there are a lot of traditional elements in this, but obviously,
Of course it is.
there may not be a consensus among the board members that that's the case. So we'd like to be able to meet. Do you know what your timing is for retaining the architectural consultant?
We do that.
He says we do.
And it is.
So, Jerry, so you know, the response to the RFP is,
I'll have to consult my attorney before I can say that.
the response to the RFP is Friday, is next Friday.
A week from Friday.
Okay.
So when the decision's made is sometime shortly after that.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that it makes sense for us to try to just keep redesigning without
No.
having that guidance.
Agreed.
To us,
Thank you
I
for
think
that.
it's inefficient, and I'm sure it would be frustrating to you to keep seeing it. So,
I think the board have expressed we have some concerns.
So what I'd like to be able to do, and we could look at Stop and Shop signage if you want. We did submit it in the package, but we've taken an awful long time tonight, and I don't know that you want to devote more time to it. What we'd like to leave here with tonight is obtaining referrals out to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the variances that we require, parking and signage for Stop and Shop, and also a referral out to the Environmental Conservation Board because we require a wetlands permit. And then revisit with the board, have a meeting with whichever architectural consultant you hire at an appropriate time in the not-too-distant future after you retain them, so that we can sit down and try to deal with some of these other issues.
We express that I have great confidence in your architect, that he's more than capable of doing that job, and we're not criticizing his work, nor are we criticizing the work of the engineer.
Nope.
He just got to calm that traffic down a little bit. We'll be okay.
Well, we have great confidence in our
Yeah,
colleagues on
and
the
I'm
team
sure
as well.
I'm sure that all of them will do a great job, and we help you as much as we can.
I'm sure you will. So if you have any other additional questions, do you want to look at the Stop and Shop signage, or can we talk about some of the procedural steps we'd like to
It's up to
take?
the board.
Well, there's several,
Do you want to try to finish what that building's gonna look like first? I think some of the.
Wouldn't the signage, wouldn't be important?
Signage, I think, is good to talk about.
there's several variances that are required for signage on the existing buildings as well as on the new. And their parking formula, they went to a different ratio in the past, and they're trying to actually go to a different ratio again. A little bit lower than what's required. It was 5 per thousand, they were at 4 point something, 3 point something.
You're required at 6
Oh,
per
6.
thousand under code. There's a variance for 4.6 per thousand, and we would like a variance for 4.2.
And there's another variance that's higher, but you're getting rid of that one. That one's, you're not gonna use that,
I
correct?
think it was 4.61.
Okay, that's fine. So there are a few variances, and parking space size down to 9 by 18?
9 by 19 prevailing on the site. There are some instances where it's smaller than
Okay.
9 by 19.
Huge. Looks huge.
Is this Stop and Shop related to the other one you just took down?
Yes.
It's right,
Looks just like it?
no, this is to the right of that, what they just showed you.
Okay.
That was the point.
It's weird to the right, right?
Now, this is to the left of the facade improvements that you saw.
Okay.
This is the end, the left end cap if you're looking at the center from Route 6, or from the parking lot. And I know that Ms. Farr at the last meeting said that Stop and Shop will work with you to the extent it can, and work with material colors and things of that nature, and some of the choice selections.
Sure.
Let's see how not being white, so bright white, it actually softened that picture just right there.
Right, so here's an example. You have clapboard facade facing on this. You had clapboard on the other one that was bright white. This is a wood tone. So that's the inconsistency, I think, that you were hearing from some of the comments, and what if they were more coordinated? You may have a better reception.
So no signage then on the end of the building then, right?
That is the
Yeah,
end of the
no, there
building.
is. On the end of the building, on the left-hand side, there are 4 signs that are indicated here. Fast Care, Peapod, People's United Bank.
I couldn't
and
see with the glare, I don't
Pharmacy.
think.
Oh, sorry
Yeah,
about
okay.
that.
And they are permitted by right to have a sign facing Baldwin as well as Route 6.
Right, and we talked about that the last,
Yes.
yeah, okay, I couldn't see it. Thank you, that's better.
Right, sorry about that. So these are, Fast Care, Peapod, People's United Bank, I mean, these are services within Stop and Shop, but People's United Bank, for example, is a separate entity. And the same thing with Fast Care. And then the wall sign has really been simplified by Stop and Shop to be the Stop and Shop sign with the fruit bowl. I don't know if you're familiar with the Baldwin Place Stop and Shop or some of the other ones where they used to have a lot of department signs in addition to those. So they've really simplified the sign. And I think actually it's a very nice, clean line. So you can see the full elevation on the top, and then it's broken up on the bottom. And the far right, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a Starbucks sign, because there will be a Starbucks. At least the current plan is for a Starbucks to be within the Stop and Shop. And this is, again, this is the prototype that had,
I
you
feel
know, not
like
everything has
Dunkin'
been
Donuts gonna really want
finalized,
some
so.
traffic calming when they realize there's a Starbucks in there.
Kitchen cafe mixed coffee.
I mean, this, let me just clarify, this is the prototype. I don't know that we know for certain that all of these elements are going to be in this building, but we wanted to give you the whole picture as opposed to something less and come back later on and add something.
And what happens to the rear of the building?
The rear elevation, I mean, it's just a continuous.
Oh, okay.
And they have
We don't have treatments on the rear, if that's your question. You did discuss with us possibly
And the loading dock,
wrapping treatments.
the loading dock will be back there,
Right, the loading dock is
where
on the
they're
rear.
gonna back right in.
Yep, yep.
On the rear.
That's
Oh, there you
correct.
go. Yep,
There's a loading dock right there.
yep.
Right, but I guess there are variations.
Yeah,
I
no,
didn't want
that's
you to
why I
think
was-
the wood was there, though.
Yeah, just take into consideration the abutting buildings. It says if it was.
Correct.
Yeah, no, that's what more I was looking at.
There'll be a more developed one as we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the signage on there is relatively consistent with the signage that was submitted in the latest package.
So these wall signs, in terms of number and size, will require variances. And then, as we discussed previously, we need to get variances for the parking.
What are the boxes below?
Those are the Peapod
Loading bays?
lockers.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're just lockers.
yeah.
So if we were to drive by Walden Shopping Center, is the Stop and Shop sign there about the same size as that, or is this sign? I mean, just to kind of ballpark it, if we, this one, it just jumps off of you, this one here, right?
I think it's smaller.
This one,
No, this is larger.
it seems like
Yeah,
it, right?
this
I
one
think
seems
this is
larger.
larger.
Seems large.
Somers, yes.
Somers.
Down Route 6, yeah.
I think they are smaller. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And they have that long facade.
Yes.
Very long.
You mentioned the Peapod lockers. What exactly is that?
Are you familiar with Peapod? That's the
I know it's just
Home
The home
order
delivery?
a home delivery,
Right,
but,
right. It's home delivery or pickup.
okay.
But you call in your order ahead of time, and with these lockers and this arrangement, you call your order in ahead of time. assembled for you, it's available in the locker, you set a time to pick it up, and you pick it up, and it's all set and paid for already, so there's really just an efficient delivery of service.
So those lockers do not move?
Those lockers do not move.
But they are not, the front of the locker that we're seeing is not flush the facade of the building, it sticks out.
That's
That's
correct.
correct, it's
They're like,
against the
they're like
building.
containers.
That's
Yes.
correct.
So basically like bottle return kind of,
No,
I
No,
mean,
like coolers,
right, okay.
Well, they're not coolers,
No,
so
but-
there's no,
thermos, you know, they would
No,
keep
there's-
temperature.
no, there's not. They're just lockers because the bins that you get the groceries in are
Those
the
are-
ones that are temperature controlled,
Oh, okay.
correct? Right.
I just feel like that takes away from the aesthetics of the building, having
They'll-
these lockers
yeah,
in the front.
They'll stick out like a container, and what, the locker door, there's doors or something, numbered doors, or, I'm just confused about visually what this thing is.
And do I pull up to the curb and back?
Yeah, what is
How
that?
does the operation work?
Hi, Deborah Farr, the director for Stop and Shop. The bins are more like sheds. It's a manned person that will actually take the individual grocery bin out of the shed and put it into the customer's car in the back seat or the trunk. So
There?
it's not a locker per se where you have a code and you open it and get your own groceries. It is manned. We do have an employee out there during the windows that you said you'll be there to pick it up. They put it in your trunk and you go on. The interaction that you're in front of there is under 5 minutes for you to be able to pull up, get your groceries and
Okay,
go.
so the groceries that are being in bins within this structure, is there an entrance from the store for the person to bring the grocery?
It's exterior.
out? He comes out the main entrance,
Yep,
brings,
they'll be
puts them there.
they're stationed out,
Stationed.
correct, correct.
And so that those bins are open, if you will, there's aisles between, there's 2 or 3 sticking out, and then there's like a doors on the
Yeah,
side.
well, they actually butt up next to each other. I've seen 2, I mean, I think we're showing 3 here. They right next to each other it's like a storage shed almost, like you would have in your backyard.
door? Right in the front?
And there's a door in the front, and they open the door, and the bins are all stacked up, correct.
You show 5 Peapod lockers on here.
Yeah. Well,
You
they're,
don't show any parking for them? People can't just park in a fire zone?
no, it's around I think we
The side?
had on the site plan. Michael, where is that?
It's around the corner?
Yeah.
Okay, you gotta modify that.
You show right in front.
put signage and striping, the spaces will be the same size.
Right.
So just have signage and striping indicating that they're pickup spots for people.
So it would be the normal pattern of parking spaces, and that separation doesn't have to change for someone pulling up here. So you'd pull up to a regular parking space. Okay, it would be useful, Mike, if you could clarify that perhaps on a detail to show, that's new to us. So if you could show that to us in a little more clarity.
Because your sidewalk's only 5 feet, it looks like, right?
Yeah, and that's in between the parking space and the locker, and it doesn't really show where the locker is, as Carl, as you heard before, it's sort of sticking out from the building. It's not shown sticking out from the building here.
Clarify location on the plan and show that.
Yeah, this is something that's different to us, so we need to know a little bit more.
Maybe the dimensions of these lockers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we can get you,
And how the operation is to hold it.
get you that.
Because people shouldn't be pulling up in the fire zone, parking and you loading, that's all. I just want to make sure that's not happening.
Yeah, and I think what's key is that, again, it will be manned, so if somebody does do that, they will direct them
Good.
to
A
pull
parking
around
spot.
to the parking spot.
Good.
Yeah. And as far as the look goes, I mean, we have them, they're kind of fun colors, they're to attract your eye so you see it, that's where you want to go. But we have, in some cases, changed the look at it, so it blends, the material on it blends right in with the rest of the facade, and you don't even see it. So some people complain about that because they don't see it, and then other people don't like how it stands out, but we could work with you on that.
To me, they look, right now, a little bit like a FedEx drop box.
Yeah.
Well, but that's why FedEx does that, so you see it.
I
Yeah.
understand.
We'll have to add that signage to the signage calculation also, though.
Yeah, the Peapod pickup area, drop, whatever you call it, yep.
Any other questions?
Is there a place we can see these pods? Is there a place that Stop and Shop does that locally?
You're doing
Oh, they do it in a number of locations around here. Does Somers have pods?
Does not.
It'd be nice to
We
see.
will send a list to Rose, if that's okay, and she'll disseminate it to you, and you can go see it at your convenience. But it's a part you'll find, this home delivery or available pickup is an aspect, a normal part of all supermarkets that are,
As close as you can get to a drive-up window, right?
Right. No roller skates involved in this when they do that?
no roller skates, not yet anyway.
Climbable ones or the non-climbable ones?
Then Pat, we move forward to.
They're eggplant color.
ZBA,
To
so
what they need to do.
the sign issues you heard tonight and the parking issues are pretty straightforward, and I don't think any of that relates to any of the things we're talking about. So if you're willing to consider it, I don't think there's any reason why you can't. And the ECB referral is appropriate now.
It's gotta go to the ZBA, but not now, correct?
But you could, I don't think there's a problem with it. None of this would change any of the site plan issues we're talking about.
How about, would it have to come
Except
back
the
for the
parking,
center? The center signage, would that come back? Is that, it's
It's
not
not, I
resolved?
mean, it's either gonna be what it is or it's not. You're not gonna have anything to say about it,
With what?
the signage. The
No,
fact
this
that
signage is okay, but I'm talking about the center
Oh,
part of the,
center
the
signage.
center part of
Yeah,
the
it
shopping
seemed as
center.
though there were some open issues with that still. So that's a
I do
question.
have the measurements though.
If you're living with those measurements, it's a yes or a no from the zoning board. It's,
Meaning existing signs?
yeah, for the new center portion. If you're still thinking about making adjustments to those based on the comments you may get from the board about the facade, you may have to return to the zoning board if you're gonna change that or
Right,
modify
no,
it.
we understand that,
The only other thing that could change it is if you change the parking layout by making them make a left to go towards the exit. That
That
could
could
lose some parking
affect,
spaces.
because those are parking spaces.
Just thought about that.
They can find parking places.
Been finding parking places.
Place as big as that, I'm sure you can find a hole there, another parking place.
Yeah, we prefer not to be held up, just because I'm not sure what we're gonna do in terms of the calming devices that you've
We
asked
don't
us
want
to
to
think
hold
about.
you up, so therefore, when you go back, tell the engineer, look closely at turning left. When he comes out there, okay?
You refer me out tonight, and we'll be sure we have that conversation.
Oh, someone
There you go. I give you a motion.
So moved.
I would make the motion we refer them to the ZBA and the ECB. I think that's appropriate.
I'll second.
For your word. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And then as
Very
soon
much.
as you have an architectural consultant, if you let us know, Pat, we'll get back on the board and deal with that.
Get an application, we have them upstairs, well.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Good night.
He's now 14.
Cold in here, isn't it? It's freezing. Keep you awake anyway. It's a little chilly in it. Keep us awake. I'm sleeping, I'll tell you that.
Why?
Do you care?
Mike didn't pay the heat bill. Did you pay the heat bill?
Stamp those plans?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mike,
We need a set of plans to
we
stamp.
need it, yeah. For the-
Zoning board denied.
Do you have the site plan set
Thank
with
you.
you?
Just the
Just
site
one
plan
set.
page, and then we can look at it, and Harold through it.
I read it. I think those people wanted to talk, so we don't take it so long.
Thank you, Harold.
Yeah, no. They're out. They're
The
gone.
site plan, yep, site layout plan.
So we can stamp the denial.
Thank you.
Night, thank you.
I started the night, it was my son's 13th birthday, he's now 14.
What happened?
The night started, it was my son's 13th birthday, he's now 14.
Aw.
It's a long night.
It can't all be easy.
That's what I meant, yeah. That's what I was asking.
I was under the misconception that the Stop and Shop was on.
sure it's still 16?
You too?
Yep.
I must have missed that.
Thanks very much.
Four for minutes.
The other guys that were.
What's that?
The room cleared out.
Wow, we emptied out the room.
Thomas Fisher.
No.
Cell tower.
Verizon.
Verizon cell tower.
Oh, yeah.
Michael?
Right. Is it Sam's?
Yeah, right. No,
Sam's, right?
Verizon.
It's not Sam's building then?
Yep. Yep.
Sorry, I'm trying. The applicant proposes to add an antenna to the roof of the existing Sam's building in Mayapack. Variances required for parking. 2 additional parking spots are required, and you guys didn't actually give us a parking calculation on the map that I saw, but I'm sure they don't have extra parking spots. The project needs to be referred to the fire department and the ECB for comments.
Rich?
As Mike mentioned, the application involves the installation of a cellular antennas on the roof of the Sam's tile. As there are no new site improvements are planned, the engineering department has no technical concerns on the application. The application should be referred to the Town of Carmel Environmental Conservation Board, the Mayapack Fire Department, and the Putnam County Department of Health for review and recommendation per section 156-37E of the Town Code.
Could I have our, hold it. Pat?
Mr. Chairman, this is a wireless communication facility. It is a conditional use in this zoning district, allowable as a conditional use. The applicant is indicating that this is a co-location on the building, and briefly looking at the building, driving past, I didn't notice other facilities on there, so is this proposed to be a co-location? This is the first antenna, or am I missing the other antennas on the building?
licensed antennas, it's a co-location under the FCC shop block order, but not under.
So there's no other facility on the building yet?
Correct.
Okay. So you're hearing a lawyer speak in terms of our understanding of a co-location. This is the first antenna. There is no other other facility on the building yet.
He's a lawyer.
He is.
Should I address my attorney?
Only when he said something wrong.
The standards, we apply the public utility standards for these. They submitted the FCC radio frequency report, which indicates that they are significantly compliant. This does comply with the height requirements, the 35-foot height requirements in the zone. This does not require screening. It's a roof-mounted facility. Mike indicated the parking issue. There is a lot of parking around Sam's, and I'm not sure if it's theirs or adjacent property and so forth. So the parking issue does need to be clarified, but there's parking in the front. There's a big parking lot on the south side, and there's parking on the north side, too. I don't know if any of that's theirs or not. So they do need to clarify that. Rich indicated the referrals that are necessary. The issue that we deal with on these is visual impacts. So, Mr. Chairman, you'll remember when Sam's came through us last time, we spent a lot of time dealing with visual issues associated with that building. And it's an attractive building today. So now they're adding these antennas. We need to have an understanding of what they're going to look like. They gave us some photo simulations. One of them coming from the south is pretty far away. If that simulation were closer to the building, we'd have a better understanding of what's going on. But the most important thing with respect to visual impacts on this is the Putnam Trailway, which is right behind the building. That's a significant public asset to the county, and visual impacts on that are what is a significant regional issue, not only a local issue. So there really isn't a viewpoint from the trailway itself. And you may be so close to the building you won't even see them, but that's a rendering that we should see from the county trailway. There's no question about that. It's yours, that's on the other side of the trailway, farther away. So what we want is that public resource being on the trailway, looking at the building.
And then just to clarify, the view from the south is viewed.
A little closer to the building. So it's kind of so far away, you can't see anything, and you can't see anything because you're too far away. So if we got a little bit closer, you'd have a better sense of what's going on.
So the trailway is on the other side of that line of trees that's buffering.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yep.
For the record, my name is Ed Tiber. I'm here tonight from the law firm of Snyder and Snyder in support of New York SMSA Limited Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless' site plan application. Your staff gave an excellent synopsis of the application. My only few comments to add, we submitted our application to the Putnam County Department of Health and the Fire Department. I have the certified mailing receipts if you would wish to look at them, or I can send them to Rose. Tonight, we would like to be referred to the ECB board as required by your zoning code. As to parking, it was my understanding that there's ample parking at the property, but
Have them show us on the map.
certainly, yeah, and I would hope that we wouldn't have to go to the zoning board if we have to, I'll come back and ask for a referral. But we'll certainly have the plans updated to reflect the parking. I'd just like to, on that note, I know that your zoning code requires 2 parking spaces for all public utilities, but this is an unmanned public utility, so, any additional parking would be limited to 1 maintenance visit about once per month. Yeah, so as Pat said, we submitted a visual analysis. We will supplement those 2 views and then add that with the addition of the one from the trailway. The FCC compliance report was signed and sealed, so that should address some questions that have come up before. Yeah, unless there weren't any other questions at this time, I'd really just like to be referred to the ECB and maybe schedule a public hearing, although maybe it sounds like we need to work out those parking issues first.
Can I just see the elevation? Do you have the elevation? No.
Nice looking building.
Dave.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, I wanted to see with that antenna on it, right,
Yeah.
so.
yeah.
And the other antenna would be behind this, I don't know if you want to call it rotunda or tower, but the elevation's shown here, but it's not visible.
Yeah, so the antenna right behind the tower there, right? Is there any wiring going to come down on the face of the building anywhere?
No, all the equipment will be on the inside the curved wall.
So we're not going to see any wires or conduits coming down the side of that building at all?
But not from the back, side, not from the trail either?
It's all coming down the backside.
So no cable chase on the outside of that front part of the building? That's great. Ed, what's in that top of that cupola? Is that empty attic space?
I don't know, I know it's,
I don't think it's anything.
yeah.
I think you look right up and it's,
I think it's an
I think
open
it's a
atrium.
cathedral ceiling.
It's
Yeah.
an atrium.
Oh, is it?
I think
So
it's an open.
It's architectural space inside of the building.
That's correct.
Ed, one more second before we go back. So now go back to your roof plan, just 1 second. Your overall,
Yeah, stick it
so
inside.
keep going.
This is all, you see how it's all open?
There you
I mean,
go,
all
that one.
closed.
The one you're going to fold up. No, keep going up 3. Keep going
Right
up.
there,
No,
where
no.
you have your hands already.
Open already, keep going, lift, no, lift
going.
the next one up.
There, that one, right?
So you can see here, all the cables are coming routed along the roof and then down, and then they're put on risers on the back door.
So my question, I guess, is wouldn't it make more sense if you move that in toward the center of the building, or wouldn't it take a less,
The antenna?
yeah, wouldn't it
They don't
have a
get the
less
coverage.
visual impact, or is it because of a
I think the
structural
idea-
issue?
It's my understanding that the idea was to kind of try to hide it behind, or, have the tower or rotunda, whatever you want to call it, with the tracking antennas. So, it would,
I just thought if you brought it in more,
you mean in this way or in?
No, in, behind it.
Tuck it
Behind
behind it. a
You
little.
may not get the same
Right where
coverage
the
up Route
cables
6.
come
Is that what it
through.
is?
Maybe.
I don't know, I'm not sure, it just seems, it would seem to me if you just move that over a couple of feet, you wouldn't see it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in there somewhere.
Yeah, the problem is, and I can certainly have the RF do a study to see how much they can move it, but very quickly, you have what's called the roof shadow effect, where the antenna would be hitting the parapet wall. And, obviously.
That's what I'm asking, I'm not an expert,
So
it's
we
just,
could maybe move it, some amount, but it's not gonna be able to be moved in the middle of the building, if that makes sense.
And Ed, just to go back, if you could close the loop with me. Now, you leave that image up, but that peaked area, Mike seems to indicate that's open volume to the interior space. Just verify that. If it's in fact attic space, putting the antennas within an attic is sometimes an option, and it certainly is far less visually obtrusive if you could do that. So I think Mike's right. I think it's open and not attic space. And if that's the case, it's out of the question. But if it is attic space, could you just take a look?
It's nice to see like that.
No, right here, up by the roof, and then the wires go down the back.
Okay.
Right at the back, you said?
Yeah, all wires are going to the back.
Back is where the path is.
Yep.
You know, if this is Route 6, the back. Stops at the opposite back.
And that's the path back there.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Is there a way to disguise this better?
I mean, they're already painted to match.
Good.
This is the roof line of this building is slightly unique. It's a pitched roof. It has that tower, and then it has these dormer windows. So,
This one is a little bit different than some of the other ones you brought to us,
Right.
because the building is so new and has some really nice architectural merit to it.
right.
So if there were, as Kim is suggesting, if
I'd
there
hate
were,
to,
yeah.
I'd hate to distract the architect that this building already has with popping antennas up all over the place.
Right, I mean, these are just two antennas, but noted, right? And I think these are.
Two more than we have.
Painted to match, this kind of slate gray, roof.
Will the wires be painted also to match?
Yeah,
That helps.
Couldn't turn it into like a weather vane or something on top of the building.
Because, and also, this is the first.
Yeah, of what it will be a co-location, you've heard that.
Now, what does this mean? Is it co-location? I mean, I know it means there can be more, but what, I guess,
It's a.
can you say no? You can't put antennas on
So
that
there
building?
is new, Joe can speak to this, federal legislation dealing with additional antennas in a co-located site. And there are now thresholds that if you don't expand it within a certain size and so forth, there is federal legislation that says you don't have to comply with you don't have to come to planning boards. You go right to building departments to get building permits. It's a way that also, like that shot clock phrase that you heard the attorney mention, that's another provision that requires us to do this in a timely manner. That other provision, which is relatively new, also sets standards that in a co-located facility, if it's not exceeding these thresholds, they don't have to come to us anymore. They go right to Mike, and Mike is obligated by law, federal law, to grant him building permits. And it's, I think, more than 10%, and there's certain height provisions and so forth. So that phrase was said intentionally. There's a purpose for them to have it in their approval that this is a co-located site. So that's what it's all about. But from a layman's perspective, it means there'll be more.
We're probably gonna see this.
Don't drag your heels.
Carmel, right, don't you? Haven't you looked at sites in the town of Carmel as well?
Yeah.
This is gonna come up over and over
Yeah.
again.
And what's,
Cheaper than building a tower.
Right.
so what Ed will tell you is that the more we do this, the more we download videos during planning board meetings, the more facilities they need to create. And this is now a 30-foot tall building they're putting antennas on. 5 and 10 years ago, we were seeing these on 125-foot towers. They're filling in sites. They have to make them smaller and smaller and smaller with more subdivisions to these facilities. So they're going to be all over the place. It's only inevitable because we use more data these days in our facilities. So we're going to see more of them.
So, okay, but my basic question, no offense, is I'm asking, this board does not have the authority to say, we will not accept antennas on that.
It's even gotten harder for us to say that. The only thing we have some discretion over is Kim's point of the visual and aesthetic impacts. And this one's a little bit different because it's next to a major public resource. So frankly, if this had a visual impact that was really disruptive to that public resource, we may have the ability to actually say no to something like that. Ed's cringing right now, but that's the only instance where we might have that small ability to do it. Probably not. Yeah. But,
He doesn't look like he's
But
cringing.
otherwise, so in other words, and not just Verizon, but anyone wishing to put up an antenna
different,
basically can
no.
pose it for anybody.
Only if you are a public utility. So the federal government makes them provide these facilities in this manner.
And just come in and say, okay, well, we want to put one on that building and no one.
They would need site plan approval from each of them,
There would
And
be
let-
site
and let-
plan, right.
from each of the buildings that they're going to, each of the
But
properties.
Unless there was
A
some
co-located facility that doesn't exceed those thresholds.
impact to what you just said,
Visual.
Yeah.
path or
Visual.
some larger public facility.
And what we have
They
learned,
can't- Where there's no real,
there's no basis. And
Unless
they
the health
have
department says whatever, the waves are no good or whatever, something like that could do it through health.
very hard for us to do that. But we do have some discretion over aesthetics. And what you will see is, we need to, put your fingers in your head. So we need to push them. So they're gonna come in and do the least expensive aesthetic treatment to these they possibly can. We have the ability to say, do a better job. So Ed's gonna go back now to the shop and figure out if he can do a better job, and he has certain limitations, but we should always ask them to do a better job. The last one he brought to us had antennas sticking above a parapet. You said, put them level with the parapet, it's better, and he was able to do it. So it's usually a good exercise for us to go back to them and say, do a better job, and they usually will try.
Otherwise, all these buildings are gonna start looking like porcupines with these
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Stop using data.
That's right.
I mean, is
I
there,
know, the kids I'm killing.
is there a restriction on the amount of antennas allowed?
So no, not numbers. The restriction becomes the federal government's radiation standards. So the thing about those is, a lot of people think that those are, there could probably be 50 antennas, and they'll still be 100 times below the threshold standards. These are very, very low emitting facilities that we never thought they were, and so we learned a lot about them. They're, it's less than a microwave oven, it's less than a light bulb. That's what these things transmit generally. So it's hard to get up to those standards. Sometimes the roof areas are close to those standards, and you'll have warnings on the doors for, repairman going on a roof, but generally to the public, it's very, very low.
I think the other side of this, though, is that, again, if you go back just 10 years ago, right, they're building these giant, I think of the tower on the Hutch, right?
Oh,
That big ugly
Christmas
tower.
tree.
So this
Christmas
is certainly
tree
a
is
lot
the
better,
Douglas
this
fir.
is certainly a lot better than that, right? And I think as time goes on, these
To the
antennas will
area.
get smaller and smaller and smaller anyway, so.
We had the two towers up on the hill here.
So now this is a co-location, or
Will be.
will be a co-location. How does that affect this building in the future?
The next
Are
one
they-
doesn't have to come back.
It makes it
They
very
don't have
easy
to
for
come
the
back.
next one. They theoretically may not have to come back.
Okay, so if they don't have to come back, or may not have to come back, they can slap on any other antenna at that point.
Yeah.
In the location they show you now, though. You show the location,
No,
correct?
I didn't think that was the case.
Yeah, so he shows the location.
Another one in the back of the building.
Oh, okay, so it's all going to be within,
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it catches off of that one.
I thought
We
it would be,
had the
Catches right
Carmel
off
Fire Department here, right? They couldn't change that really without,
Because they
right?
only had enough space for 4 of them.
That's a
Right.
co-located tower.
That's a co-located tower, right? And he couldn't make it taller or bigger to have to
There are
work on
limitations,
that.
so the carriers have to have certain separations between the number of antennas that exist on a facility, so there's certain laws of physics that govern how you can install these things, and
there's only so much space.
And the pole has wind loads.
We just did this in Carmel, on the
Correct.
flagpole.
Exactly.
And then they wanted to go to the outside.
Right.
And we said no.
Okay.
And in that case, they didn't.
Well, they wanted to turn it into a monopole. They wanted
Instead of a
to get
flagpole.
rid of it. Its character still lacking.
There you go. Ha! That's a very interesting image. Rich just pointed out that the image on the top of the hill, behind there you see the antenna sitting on top of,
Yeah.
You got wires
you
in
weren't
the
supposed to
building.
see
I mean,
It was noted earlier that you indicated that in instances where they can be put in attic space and so forth.
yeah, a great location for these turned out to be church belfries, and a lot of them have gone into belfries, you don't even know they're in there.
Oh,
And to that end, even though this atrium may not in fact be attic space, I would like to see consideration with, and I know it has to do with the owner and so forth, as to whether it could still be put in the higher space up there. I mean, I've been there, and I don't believe that there's any other commercial aspect. He has displays as you enter, sample kitchens and whatnot. They're certainly not up in the atrium. And I don't know that, other than letting light in and having an atmosphere there as you enter of scale and size, I don't know that there'd be significant impact of having an antenna within that structure anyway.
So their engineers can look at that. I think, obviously, there's emission issues. If
Yeah.
there's an asphalt roof, it may be preventative of.
So there'd have to be an RF transparent material.
Yeah.
So it could get tricky once you're in this, if we're just suggesting like, hey, well, we just move the attention of the roof into your atrium and rebuild the roof of your atrium with RF transparent material. That's a pretty big ask for the landlord.
We're usually at a
Just built it.
We're usually at a disadvantage for this because they'll tell us we technically can't do that. What we have is our own guy who's an expert in this field, that we're able to refer these questions to, and they'll say, yes, he's telling the truth, they can't do it, or it's a possibility they might be able to do it. So feel free to ask those questions, because it's appropriate to ask those questions. It's their obligation to answer you, and we'll figure out if he's telling the truth or not. We have help to do that.
Given that this is a co-location and the architectural aspects that you noted earlier, Kim, and, that it is, he made some effort to make this an appealing and, structure. We had such issue with other applicants with architecture. I think that the potential for several additional antennas, I would like to see it considered, and, with your people, your technical people, as well as the owner, if there's a possibility this could be hidden within that structure.
Right now, you're only proposing 2.
Correct.
If he wants to do 4, he would have to come back to the board. He just doesn't have to come back for the second one.
Not sure about that, Mike. So
Well,
this is an area that,
I guess, regardless of that.
Right there, he's showing us on his map two antenna. So if he wants to do more than 2, he comes back to the board. That's the the 1 and 2. Not number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
but that's only by virtue of your interpretation, Mike. So this federal ordinance that I'm referring to is
Okay.
is meant to allow him to do this without bothering with you guys, because you're putting him through all this rigmarole
But then why would they make him come for number 1 and 2?
to create the co-located site, so.
Oh, guy.
Okay.
So, it's out of my
You know.
depth here.
What I want to, I'm sorry, but the reason for my suggestion or request on that is, as before, if we put it on the outside, we've set a precedent that on the outside's okay. If he can get a co-location, but inside the building, the next 5 or 6 guys that come and they want to put it on the outside, we say, we haven't, that precedent at least hasn't been set.
Or if they have this loophole and don't have to come back to you, it's easier for Mike to say, can you put it inside like the other ones are inside?
Right.
So
That's
you're,
right.
it's a good question.
easier.
I can try, but if you're saying that once they get the co-location, I have no say, why are we gonna make him put 2 inside when the next 2 that come can put them outside?
It's Verizon only, though. If Sprint comes, they have to come to planning board.
Not sure about
That's what
that.
Mike, that's what you said before, isn't
Not
it?
sure
not what
about
he
that.
said.
I think quite the opposite. I think, I was just speaking to your hypothetical where someone came, Verizon's already gonna be on this building. Realistically, I don't think Verizon's going to want to increase antennas. The more realistic scenario is that another carrier, say AT&T, Sprint, or T-Mobile comes along, they want to put antennas on this building and co-locate on Verizon's existing base station.
Because they want to have the same coverage as Verizon.
That's
and
correct.
AT&T.
Pat,
Right.
It's
But if-
better to try to put this inside the building.
Sure it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure it
Can you
is.
take a look at that?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Come back and let us know
Please, can I
Thank you.
ask for referral to ECD in the meantime?
when you come back.
And
Wait a minute, you going to ECB?
Yeah, that's,
Can you get a motion to send to the ECB?
I
Can you
make the
get a
motion. I'll move that it be allowed to go to
I think
ECB.
you need a motion, doesn't he?
I'll second.
To go to the ECB?
Yeah.
Or how are we sending him to zoning board?
he may not need it. He's gonna check the calculation. He's gonna check the
If he's gotta go
calculation.
zoning, he's gonna come back.
I think you just send it to the ECB.
ECB, you can send it.
ECB's got it.
Yep.
Vote on it?
You don't have to make
Not
a
to ECB.
Just send it?
chairman or whoever.
Oh, that's it,
Just
okay.
send it to the ECB.
Gotcha.
You got it. Thank you.
Don't forget your earnings.
Last but not least.
Thomas Fisher, John Simone. How are you? Good, Michael?
Yeah, sorry. I know.
Just hanging around.
17.
Don't forget your drawings, your
Don't forget
drawings.
your maps, Ed.
Yeah, we didn't like them either, Ed. You-
Oh, that's right. ZBA.
I don't think I have many comments, did I? All necessary variances were granted by the zoning board of appeals. I think, right?
That does not settle yet? I thought that was,
It's settled. That zoning board settled everything.
Right, so
got
they
the
needed their
variances.
variances. What we're trying to do now is get it to coordinate public hearings with the funeral home.
Rich?
All engineering comments have been addressed, and we do not have an objection to the lot line adjustment being proposed.
Pat?
Same thing, Mr. Chairman, we can move to schedule a public hearing on this.
That's what we'll do. I know you want to set all night to hear that, didn't you?
We're gonna get it done.
At least
It was
it's good
easy
news.
anyway when you got here.
Denied. No, I'm just kidding.
But, we're gonna have a public hearing, and then we go from there.
For both the lot line and the amended site plan?
Well,
Yeah, we already set the public hearing for the site, for the funeral home, so now we're catching you up to that one.
All right, just want to make sure.
okay,
Yep.
you're on your way.
All right, thank you.
Next time, we'll make it settle at least 10 minutes less.
No guarantees.
Good night.
Thank you.
The,
We'll try to.
Should be at the top of the
You
agenda.
did Hillcrest and,
Hillcrest is off the agenda.
and it Hamlet's adjourned.
The,
Yeah,
Hamlet will come on front, that's off.
That was,
Yeah,
that's
that's all.
off.
Yeah, I asked to remove that. We're still talking about flow rates and out-of-district agreements.
Linoleum.
We did the partnership.
Yep,
We
you're
did,
up to minutes, Mr.
Minutes.
Chairman.
Pictures and the minutes. Can you get a motion on them?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of December 9th, 2015.
Second?
All in favor?
Okay.
A second.
Aye.
Okay, we want to talk briefly about the architect, but I think we should close the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn? I make the motion to adjourn?
I'll
I'll second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.